welcome to Writer's Realm Podcast, and thank you for joining us as we journey through writing together. We're your hosts, Bob Adauto.
Ollie Rebelliard.
And Austin Matthews.
And today we're going to talk about life after NaNo. And there is like a whole world. I mean, what do you do with, hopefully you don't have the blues, but you're feeling probably exhausted and you're wondering, well, what do we do now? What's next, right?
Yeah, well,
so what do we
hopefully
do?
if you listen to us, you'll be well rested because you took care of yourself and you had some, life balance. But if you didn't, we understand because I never do. So, I mean, it's fine if you need to take a couple of days and then just adjust before you move on to all these next steps.
Yeah, I agree. I think we can all be excited that we made it. First of all, round of applause to everyone for getting through it and meeting your goals. And if you didn't meet your goals, at least you accomplished something and you learned from what you did at NaNo, which is the whole point of NaNo. And now we have a ton of things for you guys to work on, because I know that you're going to be so excited with everything that you've written or are about to continue writing. And now we're going to help you figure out what to do next.
So let's talk about drafting.
Okay.
Yeah, what do we do next? Let's say we have our first draft, because this is not so let's hopefully we drilled it into our heads. This is not to be perfect. There's no such thing as a perfect first draft. No one ever in the history has ever typed up your first draft and handed that into a publisher and they loved it and boom, there's lots of work to do, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And whenever I was a teacher, I remember my students getting so upset with me when I would make them do 3 drafts, and they're like, how come you're making us do 3 drafts? I'm like, guys, if you think it's good after 3 drafts, I would be surprised. Really, it's I feel like 5 drafts is where I get into a good spot. But everybody's different and it looks different. It depends on how long you spend on each draft, what you're looking to do on each one. So for me, a starting point is, as a pantser, I have to go through and actually figure out, what did I just write? And that's a good starting place for a second draft, is what mess did I give myself to sort out for a second draft?
Yeah, I agree too. And I feel like a lot of the times when you're writing and you're just going with it and you're just writing, you're going to look back and sometimes you're going to completely miss plot points, or you're going to say the same plot point 3 times, or people are going to be having the same conversation, or they're going to be in this place and then suddenly the next scene they're actually they were somewhere completely different. And you're going to find all these little tidbits in your writing and you're just hold on a second, what is going on here? And that's totally okay. And this is the best time to go through and just kind of iron out some of those wrinkles.
Yeah, iron out the wrinkles. For me, it's I have no idea why, but the timing, is it evening, late morning, afternoon, and I have to try to figure, because all of my stories usually take place less than a week. That's how fast action packed, fast paced they are. They last 2-3 days, in the story, so I have to pay attention to that. But then there's a much bigger themes about what's going on. Is the theme loneliness? Is it the need for friends? Is it the need for whatever deep emotional connection a character needs? Or so it's kind of both. It's the little stuff and then the bigger stuff too.
Yeah, and so I think a good first place to start is to really just sit down and because maybe you had a theme in mind for the story and you had a time of day, when all this was happening, but you just need to maybe give it a week to get some air and then come back to it with fresh eyes and go sit down as a reader and alpha read your own work and be okay, what themes are actually coming out? Is that what I wanted? Or if it's something I didn't plan on, do I like it? Is that something I want to play up, or do I want to make some changes? And just go through and take notes, highlight and annotate your own work as if you're critiquing somebody else's, because those are really useful going forward.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I feel with characters too, it's especially important, because when you're thinking about those characters every day when you're writing, you're going to feel a different way about them. And when you take a step back and you come back to it and you're reading through what they're saying or their interactions, they might be like portraying a completely different emotion, or they might be acting in a way that's completely out of what their character normally would be. And at the time you're writing it so that it fits the plot. And now that you're taking that step back and looking at it, you're like, well, that doesn't make sense for who they are as a character. And that doesn't make sense yet for where they need to be. And so those are like little things that you're going to pick up on.
Yeah, there's going to be all kinds of stuff to look at, and that's fine. This is what every single writer on the face of the earth deals with. So please don't feel like you're alone. Don't feel like you're the only one with the struggle. It's everyone. Every single one of us has to put everything back in a nice, tidy order that makes sense.
Yeah.
Unless it's for
Now,
you. If it's all for you, then okay, great. On to the next one.
Even still,
even
but like
still,
too, like
yeah.
something I would say is like as you're reading through it, like don't just highlight the bad things. Like have a notebook or something, like a place where you can go, that was a really cool thing that I said when I was delirious 3 weeks ago, and I just want to highlight that, how cool that moment is, to get those like high points too, to be like, I am a good writer. Because it's Nano, you're just throwing words on the page, so like a lot of it is going to be really, really rough. But if you can have those reminders that like, hey, this was an awesome thing that happened, whether it was like a line that somebody said, or you made up a idiom that doesn't exist and it's just fit the tone just perfectly, just those things that are going to encourage you to want to go back and raise the bar on everything else.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's so important to not get discouraged, because this is like the most basic, like this is the first layer of icing on the cake, right? Like, or the first coat of nail polish, or whatever you want to call it. It's the first coat of paint. It is very basic. It never looks great after that first coat. You've always got to put more on. And that's the same thing with writing, is like, don't look at it and be like, oh my gosh, this is awful. Because what you've done is you've kind of given yourself like this more in-depth outline, and now you can go back and add all those finer details, like more descriptions or more dialogue or whatever you feel like is missing. You can add that in, and you can't add it if there's nothing there. So that's what is important at this point.
Yeah, that's true. Now, you kind of sort of brought up something along the lines of editing, which is inevitable. And I know, correct me if I'm wrong, somebody, but it was, I think, in Stephen King's On Writing, his book, he put that if you want to, once you finish your first draft, to put it in a drawer for 6 weeks. Does that sound familiar to anybody? But yeah, you just shove it away and leave it there. Now, here's the thing. I have never been able to wait 6 weeks. Maybe a week, or maybe you're the type that like, okay, I'm done, and now I'm going to start working on my epic fantasy, or whatever it is, and so you can start working on that and leave the first draft alone. But I am not one of those persons. I just chomping on the bit. I can't wait to get back in it. Now I understand why, because you need some fresh eyes to look at this, to find the typos, to find the big glaring, not the line edits, but like the big pieces, like we were talking about earlier, the big themes, plot holes, obviously, but yeah, that's one thing that I've never successfully been able to done. How about you guys? Are you guys good with waiting 6 weeks, or what would you have to say to that?
I'm always working on so many different things that I have no problem setting something aside and forgetting about it for years. That's
Wow.
my problem. I think I have 12 drafts, like 12 different books in draft form that I
Oh
just,
dear.
I mean, they might not be the first draft, but like they're just different layers because, I'm working in interconnected worlds. And so like I'm building it all at the same time, looking to release, a bunch of them really quickly in
There you
succession.
go. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't made it through my book yet. So for me, like going through like a whole first edition edit is no, I'm not quite there yet. But I find even with the stuff that I've written, it's like I like to write a little bit. Like for example, working on the Blood Sky, I love writing about the Blood Sky, and I love being involved with those characters and writing a little bit. But then I was also so excited when during Preptober and when Nano started. I was really looking forward to Nano starting because I wanted to start working with these new characters that I had come up with. And then afterwards, I'm now at the point where I'm like, okay, now that Nano's over, I can put those characters off to the side, and I'm so excited to get back to writing about these other characters. So I've kind of we've had some space. You know, it's like that friend that you love to spend time with, but you don't want to spend too much time with. You need to take a step back. That's kind of how I like to look at my characters. Like, I love them so much, but sometimes, you know, just it's nice to just take that little bit of a break, but I can never be away from them for too long.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, for my first book, I had no idea. And this isn't my NaNo. This is my first book, Curse of Shadows, that I wrote. I didn't know what to do with that. And I found an editor. There's a fun story involved with that. Maybe we don't have time for that. But so anyway, I found her. I submitted it, and she's like, is this your very first one? And can I do a developmental edit for you? And I'm like, what the heck is that? And she explained what it is. And I said, okay. And I'm a little scared because it sounds scary. Somebody is really, they're not preparing it for publication. They're preparing it like, hey, we're going to make this better because you have a lot of work that needs to be done. And if you're first time author, writer, this is your first draft, or even maybe a second or third draft, and you're really not sure, because I might do this for my epic story. I'm going to be doing an epic story sometime in the future, but but I probably will give it to her for a dev edit, just so that I know what to include, because these editors, they already know, they read so much more, and they're either trained or they have a degree or they've been doing it longer, but they know what to look for, and we don't. You know, we're just kind of looking at the whole, not even the whole thing. We're kind of looking at one side, our favorite parts, our favorite characters, what a dev. So that would be my recommendation, is to find someone to get a developmental edit.
Yeah, and that's something to keep in mind too. Like, writers, readers, and editors like are all kind of in the similar like sphere, but they're all building different skills. And so like, yeah, you might be a really great writer, but like even really great writers could use an editor. Like Brandon Sanderson talks about, like he needs a great line editor. Like that's not where his skill set is. And so like it's okay for us to be like, oh yeah, I'm not there. Like I'm not even a published author, so of course I need it. So it's really refreshing to see, you know, big names in the industry admit it too.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. I think too, like, you also can do things to kind of prepare yourself for that as well, right? Like there's so many resources out there for writers that we can use, as like we can go through and edit it ourselves. Like we can do that alpha read, and we can go through and be like, hey, it needs this, or it's missing this, or, you know, if you want to spruce up your words a little bit, or you find that you're using the same words over and over, you know, grab a thesaurus or whatever you need, or an emotion. There's a really good one. It's the Writer's Guide to Emotion handbook or something along those lines. It's one of those handbooks. Just little things like that you can pick up, and they can really help you edit your own work before you even get to that step.
Yeah.
And that's just going to make you a little bit more confident in your writing too.
Right. Yeah, and something too that can help is they have some really good analytical tools. So one that I think NaNo partners with every year to do a discount on their membership is AutoCrit. And so like I use them because they're fantastic. It gives you a little chart of like different story or different sentence lengths and structures, as well as paragraph length and structure, and then like moving into like chapter lengths, and like gives you a nice little chart of like the actual flow of the things that you're doing in with your words. But then also it's like, hey, you've used this one word or phrase a lot. You should maybe like rethink that. And so it's just nice to like instantly get the analytics and not have to go through and be like, I feel like I might have said this a lot, but like, am I just going to control F everything I feel like was said a lot when I can just get a chart punched out? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I would advise you to be careful with AutoCrit though, or anything like that, because use it when you're done writing. Because if you use it and you're like you're working on your third or fourth chapter and you realize that you have all these things, you're not going to be able to shut your editor brain off, and you're never going to get out of it.
That's a good point.
Which is what I did.
Okay.
100%. So you'll get really in your own head about it too. So like I had somebody that was like just going through and reading my chapters as I was writing. They're like, you start a lot of sentences with yet. And I was like, I do, don't I? Like, and then like every time I went to start a sentence, anytime I was like, oh, yet would be perfect. And I'm like, nope, I can't do that. It's like, maybe I just don't worry about it on the first draft.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're talking about giving it to our friends. I think a lot of us would want to hand it to a friend, you know, especially if you tell them, hey, I'm writing a book, or I finished a story. And they're like, hey, I can look it over and do some edits. And okay, that's fine. But if they're not professional, don't. Well, that's like a test kind of thing. Sure, it's fine, but please don't think like, okay, now it's good enough. Or you hand it to your mom or somebody or your favorite aunt, and they leave, oh, okay, now it's been edited. Like, nah, even Grammarly, no. This is just all these things are just kind of like for you, but it's not polished yet. Okay, it's definitely not ready yet. You need like a third party. You don't know them, and you're paying the money. That definitely, there's some skin in the game for you and for them to like, they want to produce something good because they want more business in the future. But yeah, if it's just some guy down the street, oh yeah, I'll look at it, and now you think you're ready to go up against Stephen King or something, it's not gonna work. So we're absolutely going to always encourage you to find a real editor, professional editor. Maybe, in a future podcast, we'll probably talk about that, good resources for editors. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's something that's worth. I mean, you could probably spend like an entire episode talking about just editing, the different types of editing there are, and what might be useful for you, what types of editing might be useful for you. So it's definitely something that we're going to have to dive back into.
Yeah. Yeah, but then also like, it's not bad to hand it to, people that aren't editors in order to get their opinions on things, especially like some of the bigger things, like, handing it to 10 or 20 people to read, because they're going to notice if there's plot holes and say something like, hey, like whatever happened to so-and-so? And you're like, I completely forgot about that character's subplot and like completely wrote them out of the story after 15 chapters in a 100 chapter book.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would have a hard time. I'm just thinking about what you said about letting friends read it. And I do a lot of book club stuff with my friends, and we love to talk about the plots of other authors. And I'm just thinking, like, I don't know that I would love having any of my friends reading my book, because I'm a perfectionist and I want them to see like the best possible version of it.
Yeah.
But I absolutely love our writing group, which to anybody who is out there that is not part of a writing group, I highly encourage you to get in one, whether it's weekly, bi-weekly, whatever it takes, just get into a writing group, because they're absolutely fantastic to let other people who are in the same situation as you swap your chapters and you go over it, and the way that we kind of do ours is we swap chapters, and then we all kind of have a little discussion about what we liked and disliked and things that we felt could have been improved on in those chapters. And it's so rewarding, because one, I absolutely nerd out every time, because I'm like, wow, these are my characters they're talking about, like this is my book that they're talking about, someone's read it, and it's really exciting, and it really, really helps you as a writer to just, boost your morale a bit. And it also gives you incredible feedback, because, if you're exchanging your work with another writer, they understand what you're going through, and they're not going to just like tear your work to shreds. They're going to be, generous with their input and their comments, but they're also going to be kind about them. So,
yeah. I will also say, like, with the idea of beta reads, whether it's, with other writers or just with friends, like, realize that, like, I don't like probably the majority of stories and books that are out there. Like, if people don't like your book, like, it might just not be for them. Like, don't take it personally.
Yeah.
Like, your book's not going to be for everybody. There's no book out there that's for everybody.
That's right.
And that's okay. Your book's not going to be that one.
Yeah. Yeah. So beta reading. So let's say we took a little step further. Mommy read it, gave her thumbs up of approval. You actually hired an editor on Fiverr or something like that, and they, you pay them some money, and okay, so what next? So beta reading is definitely, this is like your test audience. So alpha readers would be our writing group is definitely alpha readers. And to a point, if you have friends and family, they can kind of give you some feedback. But now it's strangers. You beta readers, again, we want strangers. We want people that don't know you, because you don't want somebody to go, hey, this was fantastic, I've never read anything better than this. It sounds great, but it doesn't help you as a writer, honestly. Maybe it helps boost your ego, okay, but you really need someone to look at your writing unbiased and just go, what does this mean? This isn't making any sense. And maybe it would kind of hurt a little bit, but it's helpful.
Yeah.
Like, you actually need that.
Yeah, I'm sure I'd get a lot of that with my current when I'm sending to the writing group. It's a lot of like, what in the world?
No, you write amazing, man. I'm serious. God, I'm
Yeah,
with
but
Holly,
like,
man. I love our
I mean,
writing
just
group. We have so many awesome writers and stories. I can't wait to see them on the shelves.
Yeah.
yeah, but like if you, especially if you're doing something that's like really out there, like you're gonna get some feedback, and like that's important to get because what you want to do, like, is you want to get that reaction out of people as fast as possible. If they're gonna like it, you want to get that as fast as possible. If they're not gonna like it, you want them to know in like 2 pages they're not gonna like it. Because if they're in a Barnes and Noble, you want them to not buy it if they're not going to like it, because then
Right.
that's a bad review and they're not going to be happy, and you know
Yeah.
it's not a great experience for anybody because they've
No.
wasted their money, and
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So what I did for beta reading, I did a couple of things. We
What
were
is that?
kind of. I'm sorry. Oh, I thought you said something.
I can hear a knocking noise. That's
oh
why I
Okay, so it's
interrupted
not
you.
me. I
nope,
heard
one
it too.
second, I know
Sorry.
where it's coming from.
Sorry. I just didn't
I heard it too. I was like, is that a dog breathing or?
I just didn't want you to keep going if it was in the background.
You're awesome. Thank you.
Sorry.
I was like, is that loud enough?
Sorry, it's taking a sec to turn off. Okay,
What
for
was it?
whatever reason, my ice maker like has been making this noise.
Oh,
Like
okay.
it broke for a while and then like has come back with a vengeance.
I thought it was one of
Okay.
the kids with pots and pans or something.
Something, yeah. That's
They're trying to
funny.
get
But
y'all's attention. Help!
yeah, I was sitting here thinking, like, who is that? That's not me, right? Because
Yeah,
anyway,
I
okay.
just completely have toned it out because
Yeah.
it's part of my
Well,
life.
you have your headphones.
All right.
That's very
Yeah, so what I wanted to do for beta reading, I wanted to include questions because you want the good feedback. You don't want just a general "did you like it or not." You want to know, hey. So the questions that I included were parts of the story boring? Did parts of the story make sense? What was confusing to you? Um, something about the pace. Was the pacing too fast? Was it too slow? Were there were parts of the story that confused you, or the characters? Did any of the characters make decisions that were confusing to you or didn't make sense? You kind of want to you want really good specific feedback instead of just, did you like the story? Thumbs up, yes or no. And so what I also did was include a questionnaire with I do everything on Google Docs. So Google has, I think it's Sheets, and forgive me if I can't remember, or it's a Forms. It's Google Forms, and you can make like a questionnaire, a survey actually, and record answers and just keep everything separate. Also, one other thing before I let the other two talk, what you what you really want to do is make a separate copy, a digital copy. We're not printing this. I didn't print anything out. That's ridiculous. What you want is a separate digital copy for each beta reader. My very first beta read I had for like draft 5 or whatever it was. I handed it out. I go, here you go, and everyone started commenting because it's Google Docs, and it was super confusing. And people were editing it. They're like, "Oh, you don't want this sentence here. You want it." And I didn't ask for that, but it was so confusing because I had like 6 people in there commenting and highlighting and changing things around. So what you want to do, make each one separate. Hand it to Jimmy. Hand it to Mary. Hand it to Donna. So everything's clean, and you have each individual feedback on those.
Yeah, because even if you're thinking, well, I'll just have it as comment only. Well, the thing is that like if they were all on the same one, they would see a comment and like that might have not been in their head, but then they see that comment and they're like, I agree with that, even though they might not have thought it until somebody else pointed it out.
Yeah, and I think the nice thing about doing it that way is there's also, I think Austin, you mentioned this to me, that there is a feature where you can lock the document so that people can't download it or something, just to give yourself some added protection. I would hope that you're sharing your book with people that you trust and people that are not going to take it and throw it up on the internet, but you never know, if a laptop goes missing or is stolen or somebody else, whatever happens, and that can accidentally get put out there. And so by utilizing things like that, where you can lock it so they can't download it. I had that happen to me where I had shared a document with someone and they had downloaded it to their computer and then had commented on it and then re-uploaded it on a public page. And then at that point, I have no longer have control of it because it's a completely different document that they have uploaded to a public page. And so it just kind of made me a little bit more aware that there's ways that you can protect yourself, which is really important. Just, you spent so much time and energy and money and like, for some people, this book could be the only one that they write, and you just don't want to throw all that down the drain on, a silly mistake like that. So
Yeah.
Just
Good point.
protect yourself.
Yeah, you can either include watermarks across the page, but I have heard that those are very not confusing, but they're very distracting for beta readers. So but it's something to do. It will help. What I did was I just put it across the top as a header, my name, and then on the other page for beta readers only. So that's all I did. I didn't have any issues, because here's the thing too, it's not necessarily all ready after you get it back from, because you might work on it again. Maybe everyone is going, hey, your character Sam here is a real jerk, and we don't like him because he did this. And if everyone's saying that, then, well, you're gonna have some work to do. You're gonna have to change it up. So it's okay to go back in there. Obviously, you want that feedback. You wanna fix things up. So I mean, all I'm saying is the product that you give to the beta readers isn't necessarily going to be the end all be all.
Yeah, absolutely. Another thing you can do too, I do a lot of advanced reader copy reading. I always sign up for people that are writing in the same genre as I am. I just love to help other people out. I'll read their books and comment on them, and Goodreads and Amazon and whatever they ask for. But I love that the way that a lot of people have been doing it lately is you fill out like a questionnaire, and it's like a copyright pre-registration, basically just saying that you're going to get a copy of this book in your email, and that you're going to protect that copy as if it's your own, right? And so that's really cool as well. That's a pretty straightforward way to do it. I mean, it doesn't stop anything from happening, but at least you have, maybe for someone who's more, if you're more established, that might be more beneficial to you.
Yeah, I will say I'm terrible at all of this. I really need to be better, but I'm just like, yeah, here you go. Here's a link to my, whatever. And I have like some people that beta read a lot of my stuff. So I just have them have full access to everything,
They're like changing my notes the story for you.
Oh, well, I mean, they can only do comments. I do
Okay.
only do comments. But it's some people that have done a lot of work for me. And then like, I have one person that goes above and beyond and does like, writes out like, this is my impression of like this character as they develop through the story. And like, that way I can get all this. And I wouldn't ask anybody to write up like a character study for a beta read unless I was paying them really good money. And this person just loves it, and it like helps them read. And so they do it when they read for fun too. So I was just like, well, I'm happy to have you as a beta reader forever.
Yeah, absolutely. It's nice when you find someone like that, right? You want to hold on to them because it's like they're just invaluable.
Yeah, well, while we're on that topic, where to find them, I know I've found a bunch on Facebook. Here's the thing. There's people everywhere that love to be beta readers. It's just they love to be involved in the process. And if they happen to like your work, like Austin's talking about, then they're gonna like, hey, when's your next one coming out? Hey, sign me up. And those are the people that you want, because not because I'm not talking about they're backers, they're supporters, they're fans, but not necessarily just because, hey, gold star, when's your next book? Because hopefully they're giving you good feedback. But anyways, I found for me 3 places: Facebook, Reddit, and Goodreads all have sub forums for beta readers, and you join whatever group that is, put your info in. Hey, I have a steampunk science fiction. It's about 50,000 words, and just a really, really tiny blurb just to see if they're interested. If it's fantasy, it's an epic fantasy. It involves elves and dragons, and it's about 120,000 words, or and so people will want to know, because sometimes they don't have time. Maybe they just want short stories, but then you definitely have people that love the really big, epic, long stories too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say etiquette wise, it is a kind thing to do that if you're going to ask for beta readers, that you also offer to be a beta reader. If you want,
Yes, that's true.
if you
Yeah,
want like 20 beta readers, then theoretically you should be doing
it's true.
that many beta reads for other people.
Yeah.
Unless you're paying these people a good amount of money. If you're going on Fiverr and actually hiring people to do beta reads for you, then okay, maybe that etiquette doesn't go out. But if you're doing a community-based thing, then I would
Yeah,
definitely
that's
say
true.
like you should be part of that community.
Yeah. And I think that there's people out there as well. You don't necessarily have to dive in with a whole book, right? If you want to get like your first like 10 chapters read, you can usually figure out a lot of the things that you need to work on within the first few chapters, so a good chunk like that, people are kind of understanding who your characters are and kind of figuring that out, or they're going to start to see like repetitions in your writing or things that are missing in the plot already. It doesn't have to be a whole book. You can start kind of anywhere.
Yeah, and like including questions like if you even want to put like the first 3 chapters and go, okay, like where does this story like seem like it's going? What tone are you getting from this? What themes do you think are going to be explored? Because it's like if you're not matching those up with your first 3 to 5 chapters with where the rest of the story goes, it's again one of those things like you're promising a different story than you're delivering, and you really want those 2 things to line up.
Mm-hmm. And the nice thing about having any of your work read is it really helps with imposter syndrome, because everybody gets that no matter how many books you put out. I know you get it no matter what, because you're always worried like, this is my baby, if I'm going to put it out there in the world and nobody likes it, that's going to just be awful. So it's nice to get those beta reads, just because they're going to give you positive feedback along with the negative feedback, and it's going to make you feel really, really good, because guess what, you are a writer. So, you are a writer, you're doing a great job, just keep going. That's all that matters. But it will absolutely make you feel better.
Yeah. I've read other authors, big name authors. Probably not Stephen King. I know I'm always mentioning he's just an easy name to remember. Sorry, but there's other authors out there, big authors, but they get imposter syndrome every now and then too. So it's not just the little people and not just the peons, not just us. It's like these guys that have sold millions of books and write fantastic stories, bestsellers. They still get that every now and then where they're like, oh my gosh, somebody's gonna just read it. Well, let's go real quick definition of imposter syndrome. My understanding is that like there's just something inside of you where you're just afraid they're going to find out that you're not real, which is what Holly was alluding to. You are a writer. No, you are a creator. You're doing great. This is something that all of us deal with, but it's just some nagging doubt, in the back of your mind, like, I'm not really a writer, and somebody's gonna point at me in the bookstore and go, you are not a real author, you know what I mean?
You're a phony.
This book, what is this? Like, nobody's gonna do that. It's just a weird, hypercritical, view of yourself that's not real, pretty much.
Yeah, that's funny. That makes me think of what you said in I think it was our first episode about how, but you do know who I am.
That's right. That's right. Yep. Yeah. Did you have heard of me?
Yeah.
That is absolutely what I would say. Yeah. Yeah. What do you, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, you first.
I was going to ask Austin, how does he deal with imposter syndrome?
Goodness. Not well. I don't know anything to.
No, that's good. Yeah,
it.
That's good.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things like I talked about earlier, like going back through my own work and finding something where I'm like, wow, like I wrote that. Like that's actually really, really good. Like if I can go back and read something and be impressed by it, like it sounds silly, but like that helps me get over it. I'm like, oh, I actually kind of know what I'm doing. And like I just had that the other day. Like I had a beta reader mention something, and I went back to the chapter it was in, and I was reading the whole thing, and I found a line in it. And I was like, I don't remember writing this, but this is fantastic.
That's awesome. Okay.
Yeah, so I like highlighted it and saved it, and I was like, I've got a little thing of like, here's what I need to read through whenever I'm feeling bad. So I guess that's what I do.
Right. Oh, okay, that's good. And how about you, Holly?
Yeah, I actually do something that's kind of similar. I like to take little quotes or little things that my characters say, and then I actually turn them around and I make them into little snippets, and I like to use them for marketing.
Mm.
Um, because like it's never too early to start marketing, in my opinion. And even though, for example, The Blood Sky or Heartbound, these books aren't going to be out for at least a year, right? But when I'm ready to start releasing books, I don't want there to be nothing there for people to look back and be like, oh yeah, it's good. You know, from what I can see, these little tidbits of storyline, like they're good, right? I want people to be able to look back and see those and see these things and be like, yeah, I want to read this. So I take like little quotes and little things that I just like nerd out about. I'm like, oh, I love this. It's so good. Like if I was reading this in another book, I would be like, oh, heart stopping. Like, yes, they're in love, or yes, they're definitely going to die. And you know what I mean? Stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I love taking like little pieces like that. And it just makes me feel good because if I focus on like a couple small things about my writing that I really, really like, then I can look back on those and be like, yeah, I wrote that. And you know what? I really, really like it. And that
Mm.
kind of makes me feel good.
Those are good. Yeah, I like those. I was trying to think of what I do besides crying myself to sleep every night. I'm trying to think of what else, what would boost. Those are great. Yeah, no, I've done both of them. Well, I mean that, yeah, just go through your own work. I feel like we could again probably do a whole episode on imposter syndrome, maybe talk to somebody else about it. But I feel it has to do with
A
something that has,
therapist.
yeah, exactly, exactly. Writing therapists, that, wow, that's a whole market right there, right? They're
Yeah.
making tons of money. But yeah, but there's something I feel important about your own identity, about your own value, about your own self-worth, that can play into that. Like if you're not really high on that level of knowing where you're at as far as identity and self-worth, then I feel like you may be, it's just easier to fall into this trap of I'm not a real writer. But I've done 29 years in law enforcement, and you have to have thick skin. So I like to say I have rhino armor with that. So for me, it's I don't know. Part of me was like, you know what I'm doing with this book? I'm writing this book for me, and I'm going to share it. And if somebody likes it, fantastic. But this is my book. This is my book. I'm going to write the book I want. I want to read this. I want to know what happens with these characters. And if somebody, like I said, I'm just obviously marketing. Yes, I do want to make some more than 10 sales, sure. But like, I'm not dependent. You know what I'm saying? I'm not dependent on what they think or what they perceive. So if somebody did come out, hey, I read your book. Why would you call yourself a writer? And I would say, well, somebody has to, and I would just move on. Like it's not, I don't know. Oh, you
No,
know what I
100%.
did? Here's an example, kind of. I was at this convention. Man, I cannot talk. I've been talking all day. I'm sorry. I'm at a writing convention right now. But anyway, what I did was they go, hey, oh, are you the author? And I'm sitting at this table with all my books, okay, are sitting on this table, and I kept getting this. I would give them the pitch, hey, this is, blah, blah, blah. And then they go, oh, are you the author? And I swear I almost said, you know what? Actually, I found these behind the trash bin, and I just wanted to see if they would sell or not. Like I don't care. I don't take myself seriously. So imposter syndrome is been it's not been a whole big thing on me, honestly. I have other doubts, no, of course, but not necessarily imposter syndrome. Only because like I don't care what other people think. Maybe up to a point. Maybe we'll see. Maybe somebody will hurl some good insults at me or something. We'll see what happens. But
Yeah, but then you can just take note and put it in a book because like you're like, oh, that was a really good insult. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like that one.
And
Yeah,
that's what
that's a
makes
good
you a
zinger.
good writer.
Yeah.
Everything is content.
Yeah, I would try to help them out. Well, who hurt you when you were younger? What happened?
Yeah.
But that's funny. Yeah, so hopefully if hopefully we're helping you with this imposter syndrome. But yeah, I feel like we probably need a writing coach to talk about. We can go over a whole hour about that. To properly so you're not drinking whiskey every night or something like that.
We can't all be Hemingway.
Right. That's right. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So
So
once, oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say the same thing. So once you're done, once you've gone through your editing and your beta reads, and you're ready to move on, and you're forcing that little monster imposter syndrome down, and you're ready to start your marketing. So I think that there's no time that's too soon to start marketing your book or marketing yourself as an author or a writer. How do you guys feel about that?
Never too soon. I mean, honestly, you almost want to start thinking about it before you're finished with the book because you want to know what direction you're going to go in.
Mhm.
You're going to have to figure out real quick whether or not you want to go traditionally with a big five or whatever it is, big four now. I don't know how many they've glommed into each other right now. It might even be the big three, huh? But or
Yeah.
self-published. But either way, yeah, you want to start creating a name for yourself, a brand for yourself. What's that look like? If a newsletter, a website. I mean, these are all things where you're gonna have to do. Every single writer um, has to sell books somehow, and unfortunately, as far as self-publishing, that's me. There's probably easily 1,000 books that are being published every week on Amazon, at least, being published, or even just wide, Apple and I'm not sure of the other ones, but there's tons of other authors, is what my point is. So if you don't make a sign for yourself that says, "Hey, buy my books," then no one's gonna know because there's just too many. There's too many other. There's too much other competition out there, and so you're gonna have to figure out what you want to portray, what you want to look like. What's, like I said, just all that. You have to
Mhm.
sell books, so you're gonna have to do something.
Yeah. Yeah, I will say the one caveat to there being a too early is if you're going to be advertising a book, make sure you have the energy to continue to advertise it until it's up for sale and then for a little while longer. Don't, be working on your rough draft, like don't even have just an outline and then be advertising for it if you're not going to, if you don't have an end in sight, if it's going to be 3 to 5 years, like that might be too early, but you can still
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
working on your brand as an author. So
Yeah.
it's never too early to be
Yes.
marketing, but you have to be
Right.
considering what you should be marketing at one
Yes.
given time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Nope. Go ahead. Sorry.
I think that there's so many things you can do as well to build your brand. And I like to think of my marketing as like letting people in on my writing process, like, doing like a check-in or just even like being involved in my life. Like, what am I doing? Where am I writing? I'm out camping and I'll do a post about writing and while I'm camping and what am I reading and things like that, just to get people involved in your life because people love to know things about people, right? People genuinely are interested in who you are behind your book because who are you? What are you writing about? What are you doing in your life? What happens to you that makes you write the way that you do? And so it's really fun to me to be able to interact with people and just kind of let them see a little bit of who I am and how that affects my writing. And that's kind of how I look at my marketing is
Yeah.
just sharing little bits of information along the way because people are going to want to read your stuff if they think that they know you.
Yeah. Yeah. I was gonna say, yeah, I don't know how early is too early. You had good points about that. I have found at least one. I'm thinking I follow someone on Instagram. Most of my marketing is on social or is on Instagram. You're gonna have to find where your audience is. I like Instagram very much, so that's where I'm at. Um, but I did find somebody who has tens of thousands. I can't remember what the number is, but they don't have a book yet. But they're keeping track of like works in progress. This is what I'm querying. This is what I'm writing. So no books published, but tens of thousands of people are following them because yeah, Ollie's right. They like the person. They want to
Mhm.
see who the face is behind the pages, and hey, I'm sorry to say, hopefully you're not a jerk. Read
Yeah.
some books about how not to be a jerk. But like
Yeah.
people really enjoy just life, right? Because we're more. I mean, this goes back to identity on what I was talking about earlier, but we want to see what we're involved in. I collect Funkos. This is not my room, however. I'm at my friend's house. All she collects Funkos. I post Funkos. I just bought a ton, like $300. Don't tell anybody. Of Funkos. I went shopping with her, but yeah, all of her walls look like this. But some people love that. Some other people love, collecting Funkos or fishing or camping, like Holly's talking about, and now you're starting to build like an audience. Now now you're building some followers, and if they like you, more than likely they're going to read your stuff, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think we could have a whole other episode just on marketing alone. I absolutely hate marketing. Somehow I always end up, I hate it so much because again, that's my imposter syndrome is I feel like my marketing is not nearly good enough.
Well, and like that's something too, like I've heard somebody talk about is that like the work of an author is to write. The hard work of an author is to sell their books.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think even if you go like the traditional publishing route as well, you have to be able to do your own marketing because you need to, first of all, you need to be able to market yourself to an agent. You need to be able to show them that there's people who actually want to read your book, right? Not just them, but there's a ton of people out there who actually are interested in you or are interested in what you're doing. And so that's, it is important. I think for a while, a lot of people said, I'm going to go the traditional publishing route. I don't need to worry about marketing. And I don't think that that's really the case anymore.
Nope, it's not. Like I said, I'm currently in a writers conference right now. Very few self-published. It's mostly there's publishers there, there's agents there, and all of them say, yeah, we're gonna push the book for a couple of weeks. This is a new book, but guess what? I have another X number of books that are coming out. I need to pay attention to them too. So yeah, they're going to give you a little push, but then after that, it's going to be up to you and what you're doing on social media or conventions or whatever. Yeah, so it's still up to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like that's one of those things is like if you're not consistently putting out books, then it's like it's kind of like on Instagram. If you're not always putting out reels, you're not going to be on the top of anybody's thing. Like you have to always be publishing, and that's really the reality of today's market is like you have people writing to the market and like putting out books every 3 months, or if you're Sanderson, you're putting out full-length novels every 3 months for this year, which is insane. But like that is kind of the market. It's like in order to stay relevant, like you have to be doing that. If you want to make a career out of this, if you want to just write the 1 or 2 books and then have it out there to say you've done it, that's different. But like to really do this, like you have to like hit it. And so like that's what I'm working on, is building a backlog so that I can be like, okay, I'm going to release them in quick succession. So it's just
I think there's a lot you can do with marketing too. I also love using Instagram. That's just the platform that I prefer to use. And there's so many things that you can do on there, right? Like you can do reels and you can do little videos, and it doesn't even have to be a view, right? You can do a little reel showing some of your text, or maybe like a snippet of your chapter or anything like that you can have it just kind of slowly rolling out so people can read it. You can do little snippets, little quotes from your books. You can do little descriptions. I don't want to touch on AI art, but if you're good at Photoshop or anything like that, and you can actually come up with visuals of what your characters are, that's a huge thing that I see right now on Instagram is people coming up with character art. And it's just little things like that are just great ways that you can introduce your book to people.
Yeah, I think Holly, everyone follow Holly, and she's going to be your marketing director because she's doing great. For sure. But yeah, she brought up a good point, because some of us don't have marketing brains. This is the business side of your authorship. Okay, you kind of have to have two. And I know, like, well, I'd just rather write. Okay, we'll write books, but don't expect anyone to buy them if you're not doing any marketing. That's just the way it is. But if you're like me, I have no idea how to market. I follow tons of other authors. Most of everyone I follow are other authors. And what Holly was saying is exactly where I get my ideas. What your characters look like, or snippets of what a character is saying, one of your characters, or maybe what they look like. I get those ideas from other authors, and like, okay, good, I'm going to do it too. And I remember I told somebody, I said, hey, I'm going to steal this idea. This is amazing. And they say, yep, I stole it from somebody else, so go for it. So it's not, stealing. We're
Yeah,
just
I mean,
like, all of us, not all of us have this, marketing mind. So we just
but
need
I
help.
mean, even talking about writing, like what we're doing is we're taking in other people's work and then we're processing it through ourselves and then spitting out our version of it on the other end. Like marketing is the same thing. Like think of it as like that same process. Like I'm going to take what somebody else has done, I'm going to learn this lesson from them, and I'm going to put my own spin on it so that it's me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's your voice, right? Yeah,
Mhm.
Yeah,
exactly.
I think it's also really good to make sure that you're engaging with other people, whether it's readers or authors or writers or who it is. I get so many other people that are following me just from like stuff I've been engaging with other authors or just commenting on their stuff or, saying how excited I am for them or talking about what conferences that they're at or what I'm interested in. And then people will just follow me because they're like, hey, you're interacting with this person. I also like this person. I liked what you had to say and I'm going to follow you too. And, to keep up with what you're doing. And so it's important to not just like spam people with stuff, but also look at other people's stuff and take the time out of your day to go through and comment on things and just really engage with people. Or when people comment or like on your stuff, make sure that you're interacting with them is really
Mhm.
important as well.
That's a fantastic point, because those of us that don't know how to market or we're not good at it will just come in. I'm just using one of these Funkos, Lady Loki, but I'll just come in and go, hey, buy me a book. Thanks. Bye. And like, that's it. Like nobody likes salesmen. I'm sorry to say, if you're a salesman, we do love you, but we don't. But
We don't
but
like the
every
job.
time, you know what I mean? Yeah, you like, there's a knock on the door, and you look out and they're holding clipboard. You're like, oh yeah, I'm not answering the door, man, because like it's a tough job. But like but what we're talking about is the same thing through social media. If you're just there, just going, hey, buy my book, yeah, bye. No one's gonna follow you. Like that's.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. We want to know who you are as a person. What's your favorite ice cream? Do you have any pets? You know what I mean? Like get involved and yeah, leave comments on other authors, follow other authors. Yeah, just get engaged with other your community groups, like we're talking about the beta reading, right?
Yeah, there's been so many books lately that I have picked up and books that I normally, I might not have read. Because I already have a mile long to be read list and books that just were absolutely blowing up on social media because people were just obsessed with them and were talking about them. And because of that, I picked up these books and read them immediately, right? I went out, bought my copy and read the book right away and I loved them. And so that's why it's so important is to get those people interested in what you're doing. And then, once you get to that point, it works out really, really well for you because then other people start coming up with marketing for your book for you. And they're sharing it with people like, oh, I just picked up this book and I absolutely loved it. You got to read it. I liked X, Y, and Z about it. And then you're just like, okay, now I can focus on my next book. Thank you. Right.
Yeah.
Like
that's true. Yeah. Have fun with it, right? Yeah. Try not to look at it like it's a chore or like, oh my God, I got to do this. Like have fun with it. Cause we know, right? I mean, you could tell if this guy's like, oh, I just finished this book and, hey, looking for a sale today. Thanks. Bye.
Yeah.
Like, wow. Maybe I might buy it just to help him out, but more than likely not. Yeah.
Yeah. I think too, like it's really tough to find a balance, right? Because I know some people who are like 3 or 4 posts a day and you scroll through Instagram or whatever, TikTok or whatever, and they're like, oh, there they are again. Oh, there they are again. Which can be a bit overwhelming. I personally like to do like, a couple posts a week, maybe, or a reel and a regular post or just some variety. Obviously now with the podcast, I'm splitting it between my book and what I'm doing in the podcast. So it's a little bit more, but it's, finding that balance where you're advertising stuff, but you're not just making people sick of you either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not that anyone could get sick of us, but
yeah. Well, like so my wife does a lot of this stuff for her work. She tutors now, and so she built a platform for it, and like because if she ever needs a student, she can just make a post, and then boom, there's so many requests. But it's like 13,000 people that follow her because she's just a couple posts every once in a while, and then like the stories, just all it is our life, like just going through so that they feel like they know us. And then that instant connection of like, oh yeah, I would love to be more involved. And so like it's the same thing with your book. Like if you can make them feel like they know you, then whenever you put out a book, they're like, oh yes, like I've been waiting for something to come. So
Yeah, absolutely. And like even now that Nano's over, you can look back and talk about your experiences. Like there's if you were working on your book during Nano, which I hope that you were, you can talk about that experience and you could do like short little reels or say like the 3 things that I improved on in my book during Nano are X, Y, and Z. And you can find ways to really incorporate anything about your book or your life or I love, as I said before, I like to order things from the local bakery and I eat them and then I write about them in my book. And so I have photos on my Instagram of just some of the snacks that I got that you'll read about later.
Huh.
Just fun little things to get people involved with you.
Yeah. Oh, fun. You write cozy? That's what cozy. They'll include cozy mystery. Well, yeah, usually like a bakery shop, and then they'll have like, oh, he's eating, a cherry rum tart. And then at the end, they'll include the recipe for a cherry rum tart or something like that. But, yeah, it's pretty neat.
that's pretty fun.
Yeah.
I feel
Now I
like
want
culinary
cherry rum
things are
tart.
just a good go-to. So like I use them a lot, and it's just a thing that like normally you're not going to engage that like the taste sense of it, but it's such a like familiar, warm feeling that I feel like it engages people really well.
Mhm. It just makes me hungry.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I just had 2 burritos, but yeah, there's fudge. No, wait, brownies. We're making brownies tonight. Oh my gosh, fresh baked brownies are waiting. All right, we're done.
I
No,
always,
it's fine.
yeah, I always say that dessert doesn't go to your stomach, it goes to your heart. So
Oh,
that's
Yeah, that's
nice.
that heartburn, right?
Followed by Tums. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Let's see.
Yeah.
Yeah, so as far as what else can we do as far as you're done with your story, you're thinking about hopefully this feels real for you. Like you've got your first draft. Hopefully like we're trying to help you like move on, because there's next steps. And one of those next steps may be, yeah, part of building your brand, who you are. Are you going to be Robert Adauto? Is that you're going to be your website name? For me, I wanted my brand to be my characters, Coil and Fang. So I bought that domain. Nobody had that. Coilandfang.com, $12 a year. Woo-woo. But yeah, so you want to think about what that's going to look like, how people are going to find you. I will say one of the things what not to do. I feel like we should probably at the end of every episode, we should probably here's what not to do. What I did, and don't do this, is to buy a PO box, especially if you're brand new. Okay, if you're Stephen King, there's got to be somebody else, J.K. Rowling, somebody else. There's got to be another author out there. They have PO boxes, no doubt. Okay, because they don't want people knocking up on their house. But I don't know why I thought I had to get a PO box, and I wasted hundreds of dollars on this thing. I just thought it got to my head like, wow, I'm gonna be famous, and man, people are gonna request my book. I had no one request my book. I even had it on where, hey, if you want this, I'll send it to you. Nobody wanted a copy, so huge. That was a huge mistake for me. So I would say don't do that yet. I'll say yet. You start taking off and bestseller and like, hey, you're getting a lot of fan mail. Sure, okay, but please, in my opinion, don't waste your money on a PO box just yet.
Yeah. My don't for the week is going to be don't use homophones in your titles unless you're prepared to, like me, my first book was Deviant Rain, and every single time I have to go rain like king, not like rain like it's raining. So
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
every single time.
Okay.
Oh me, gosh. Oh.
On the spot.
You're next.
I would say my advice for this week would be don't let yourself get caught up in all the little details. And what I mean by that, I think, is that there is a lot to do, right? We're overloading you with information. We're telling you, get your alpha readers, get your beta readers, get your editor. There's all different types of editing, which we haven't even started to really bombard you with yet. That will come later, I promise. Your marketing, there's so many things for you to be doing, and just don't fret over it. This is not meant to overwhelm you. Don't do like me and just turn off your microphone and go cry for 5 minutes afterwards. Just be like, oh gosh, all these things that I'm saying that you should do that, we're doing now. I'm rambling. This is terrible.
Well, I'll jump in real quick, because the thing is that this is stuff that has to be done at some point. It doesn't have to be done today. It doesn't have to be done this week or December. It's just, these are the next steps for however long this process takes you. Like I said, I've got some stories in a trunk that I haven't touched in almost a decade, and that's fine. I might never go back to them, even though they're completed novels. That's okay, because they're not the ones that I'm excited about and the ones that I'm willing to go out and market at the end of the day.
Yeah, and it's writing's already stressful enough. I think Ollie's got a great point. It's something that needs to be done. All this stuff needs to be done, but not right now. Okay, maybe just take it, and it is huge. There's a lot of different things. How about just maybe this week, like, what would my website look like? Okay, another week, let me go research an editor. You know what I'm saying? Just take it one bite at a time, and it'll all come together eventually, because life is already stressful enough. We have work and family and, Funkos. Where am I the next Funko going to go? You know what I'm saying? Like, there's already enough. This is first world problems, but whatever's stressing you out this week, you don't need to add on, oh my gosh, I gotta make another website, kind of thing. That's a great point. Yeah.
So there you go. That's my advice, is to don't let yourself get overwhelmed.
It's perfect.
There's plenty of time. If you enjoy doing little things, like I said, I hate marketing, but I love giving myself a pat on the back when I talk about the good little quotes from my books. Then do it. And if you don't like that, then don't do it.
If you need to give yourself a little treat, like if you want to have like a little like pile of Hershey Kisses or something, that's like, I did a little Instagram post, I'm gonna reward myself.
Buy a new Funko.
That might get real expensive real quickly if
this
you're
is very expensive in here. This is very, very expensive.
Well, that's 100% fair.
Yeah, she was like, this is 700, this is 200. I was just like, holy molies. Touch, but anyway. All right, so that's all. Yeah. But yeah, well, we hope we have filled your heart and mind with enough stuff to last until next week. So don't forget to write and subscribe to our channels at the link below so you don't miss any of the Realm Writer content. We always love to hear from our listeners, so if you have a question or a topic you want to dive into, get in touch, and everything's down below. Please write and describe. That's what I said. So that's it for this week, and we're going to talk next week. All right, we'll talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.